The Galactic Council's emergency session had been called for the third time in as many cycles, and the reason was always the same: humanity. Specifically, one human named Jonah and his utterly incomprehensible companion, Ambassador Vex, the Predator King of the Krolix Empire, stood at his full 3-meter height, his obsidian scales gleaming under the chamber's artificial lights. For 12 generations, his species had dominated the known galaxy. They were apex hunters, born with reflexes that could track plasma bolts mid-flight, and claws that could rend durasteel. The concept of fear was, quite literally, absent from their neural architecture. Their language didn't even have a word for it. "This human delegation is a farce," Vexter's voice rumbled through the chamber, each word carrying the weight of absolute certainty. "Humans claim to be warriors, yet they bring no weapons, no armor, no symbols of strength. They insult this council." The other delegates shifted uncomfortably. Most species in the galaxy had learned to respect humanity's peculiar brand of chaos, but Vexter's people had yet to encounter them in any meaningful way. The Krolix operated in the Outer Rim, far from human space, and their reputation as unconquerable predators had remained intact until today. The chamber doors slid open with a pneumatic hiss, and Jonah walked in. He was unremarkable by human standards' average height, wearing casual diplomatic attire with brown hair that seemed perpetually disheveled. But it was what followed him that caused every alien in the room to tense. On a reinforced leash, waddling with an almost comical gait, was a creature roughly half a meter long. Its black and white fur looked deceptively soft, and its small, beady eyes surveyed the room with what could only be described as aggressive indifference. "Honor delegates," Jonah said cheerfully, his translator converting his words into the galactic common tongue. "I'm Jonah Martinez, representing Earth's diplomatic corps. This is my emotional support animal, Rampage." The honey badger, though no alien present knew that specific designation, displaying a set of teeth that seemed disproportionately vicious for its size. Vexter's secondary eyelids flickered, the closest his species came to expressing confusion. "You bring a prey animal to a council of warriors." "Prey animal?" Jonah's laugh echoed through the chamber. "Oh buddy, you really don't know, do you?" Before Vexter could respond, a junior Krolix warrior, eager to prove himself before his king, made a critical error. He reached toward Rampage, claws extended, intending to demonstrate humanity's foolishness by dispatching the creature in a single motion. What happened next would be analyzed in military academies across the galaxy for decades to come. Rampage moved with a speed that defied his rotund appearance. He twisted, latched onto the Krolix warrior's arm, and simply didn't let go. The warrior's howl of pain was something most delegates had never heard from a Krolixer species biologically incapable of experiencing fear was now experiencing something far worse. The realization that they were outmatched. The warrior thrashed, trying to shake off the creature, but Rampage climbed up his arm with terrifying determination, claws finding purchase in scales that were supposed to be impenetrable. Within seconds, the honey badger had reached the warrior's face. "Rampage, off," Jonah said calmly, producing a small container from his pocket. Immediately, the honey badger released his victim and waddled back to Jonah, who rewarded him with what appeared to be some kind of treat. The Krolix warrior collapsed, his armor shredded, his scales cracked, and his confidence utterly destroyed. Vexter stared at the scene, his mind struggling to process what had occurred. His warrior, trained from birth to hunt and kill, had been neutralized by a creature small enough to fit in a cargo container, and the human had simply called it off, like controlling a force of nature with a word. What? Vexter's voice had lost its commanding timbre. "What is that creature?" Jonah scratched Rampage behind the ears, and the honey badger leaned into the touch, producing a sound that might have been contentment or a threat. It was impossible to tell. "This is a honey badger from Earth Melivora Capensi. They're known for their, let's call it, aggressive tenacity." Alina, Jonah's colleague and fellow diplomat, stepped forward from where she'd been observing near the doorway. Her red hair was tied back in a professional bun, and her expression carried the practiced patience of someone who'd seen this scenario play out before. "What Jonah is too polite to mention is that honey badgers have been documented fighting off lions, surviving cobra venom, and raiding beehives for fun. They don't have a fear response. They don't retreat. They don't surrender." She paused, letting her words sink in before delivering the final observation. "Sound familiar, Ambassador Vexter?" The Predator King's claws flexed involuntarily. His species prided themselves on being the galaxy's apex predators, yet this small Earth creature embodied their philosophy taken to an illogical extreme. The Krolix would fight when threatened, when hunting, when establishing dominance. This creature seemed to fight for the sheer principle of it. Your world, Vexter said slowly, produced predators like this naturally. Oh, Rampage isn't even in our top 10 most dangerous animals, Alina replied, pulling up a holographic display. Would you like to hear about the castle, or perhaps the saltwater crocodile? Then there's the box jellyfish, which is nearly invisible and can kill you in minutes. Hippos kill more humans annually than any large predator. And don't get me started on mosquitoes. Jonah held up a hand. Alina, let's not overwhelm them. The point is, Ambassador, humans didn't become Earth's dominant species by being the strongest or the fastest. We became dominant because we're adaptable, persistent, and we learned to coexist with creatures like Rampage here. Sometimes we even made them our friends. As if to emphasize the point, Rampage rolled onto his back, and Jonah obliged by rubbing his belly. The contrast was staggering. This creature that had just mauled a Krolix warrior was now accepting affection like a domesticated pet. Vexter felt something unfamiliar stirring in his neural pathways. His species scientists had theorized about the concept other species called fear, but they'd never been able to truly comprehend it. Now, watching this human casually control such concentrated violence with simple treats and affection, Vexter understood. It wasn't fear of the honey badger itself. It was the implication. If humans could befriend and direct creatures like this, what else were they capable of? What other terrors lurked on their homeworld? And which of them had humanity decided to domesticate, weaponize, or simply live alongside? The Krolix Empire, Vexter said carefully, his pride warring with his newfound understanding, would like to propose a formal alliance with humanity, for, mutual benefit. Alina smiled, though it didn't quite reach her eyes. We'd be happy to discuss terms, Ambassador. I think you'll find humans make much better friends than enemies. Rampage chose that moment to waddle over to the Predator King, sniff his scaled foot, and then urinate on it before waddling back to Jonah. No one dared to laugh. But the message was clear. Humanity had brought their chaos to the galactic stage, and even the Predator King would bow to it. As the council session adjourned and delegates filed out, whispers spread through the galaxy. The Krolix, the species that had never known fear, had met their match not in human weapons or warships, but in a small, tenacious creature from Earth that simply refused to lose. And perhaps most terrifying of all, the humans hadn't even brought their dangerous animals. They'd brought their pets.